Alrighty, welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors get a 118-111 victory over the Portland Trailblazers at Moda Center on Tuesday. Fun game, bit to talk about, more to talk about from this game, I think, than Sunday's game against the Lakers. Steph, being Steph, gets the Warriors the victory with 28 points in less than 27 minutes, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. As well, as I said, plenty going on in this game. Jonathan Kuminga was ejected at the end of the first half after what was a reasonably impressive 18 minutes from him. The Warriors didn't really play well until about halfway through the second quarter. They found themselves down big, went on a massive run at the end of the first half, the second quarter. And then the third quarter started off pretty scratchy as well, and then went on a big run again toward the end of the third quarter. A couple of big threes at the end of that period from Jackson Rowe and then Gary Payton the second. And then the fourth quarter was like, again, both teams kind of playing their garbage time lineups, and the Warriors kind of just did enough to hold on. Thendek says, we played well in the third. I think we will always struggle against athletic teams, but find a way to win. I think Will Richard and Cry should play over Jackson Rowe. Well, I don't think any of those guys will necessarily be playing much in the main rotation, albeit Will Richard, he's a talking point. He's a real talking point from this game. So let me know what you think of his performance, because he got the start in this game. Of course, no Jimmy Butler, no Draymond Green, no Moses Moody. Guy Santos was also out. And I thought Guy might have been the one to get elevated, because when Jimmy and Draymond are out, it kind of just shows you how much the Warriors lack a kind of 6'6", 6'7" forward type, particularly with Moses out as well. I think if Moses was available, he would have slotted in at the 3. The Warriors just kind of lack depth at the forward spots, and I think that was really on show in this game with the fact that Will Richard kind of was elevated into the starting lineup for what was his first career start in the NBA, albeit again a preseason game. But he really showed up. He really showed up, and he looks like the kind of guy that will thrive. As I've been saying with some of these guys toward the end of the roster, like a guy like Guy Santos, they will thrive next to better players. And Will Richard looks like a connective type of player that will really fit the Warriors system. Does he have star potential necessarily? No, but I think his ability to defend, his ability to knock down open 3, he went 3 of 5 from deep in this game. He's actually a pretty decent rebounder for his size as well. He moves the ball all right for a guy that, yes, he's not going to create for you as such, but seems like he's in the right position. He had that one early in the game where he kind of cut off ball and Kuminga found him for a wide open layup. So he finished with, I think, 13 points, 6 rebounds, again, 3 of 5 from deep. He's already supplanted. I know we've spoken about it before, and his performance against the Lakers on Sunday wasn't great. But I think, to me, he's already supplanted Gary Payton II in the rotation. And GP2, the last couple of games, they haven't been bad, but I just think the upside in Will Richard, a young piece, the three-point shooting, I think, is obviously the biggest difference between those two guys. To me, he's just already supplanted already supplanted Gary Payton II in the rotation. So Will Richard, a big positive from this game, no doubt. And looking forward, is there a spot for him? Is there a spot for him to start the regular season where, I don't know, DeAnthony Melton out, Seth Curry's obviously not going to be an option. If, like, one of him or GP2 will probably get minutes. And I think Steve might default just to Gary to start the season, particularly in a big opening night, national TV game, I should say, against the Lakers. Maybe GP2 gets the opportunity. But I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked right now to see Will Richard in the opening night rotation as part of like a 10 or 11-man group. There's an interesting fight for minutes towards the end there, again, with Melton out, with Seth Curry not being available. The other one to me who's starting to kind of, and I mentioned this with Stevie the other day, and I was kind of on the edge. I was like, he's showing some signs to me that are positive. Trace Jackson-Davis. Again, just another pretty strong performance. I think the Warriors as a team looked far better rebounding-wise when Trace was on the floor as opposed to Quentin Post and even Horford at times in this game. And Horford, I think, got better as the game went on. His chemistry with Steph continues to build. He hit 2 of his 3 threes, which was nice to see. He had that little flip shot as well in the third quarter. So Al's third quarter was excellent. QP, again, actually put in a couple of threes and looked reasonable offensively, albeit had a couple of turnovers. But the rebounding issues with him, the defensive issues with him are still a huge concern. And I just think Trace, like, he he does provide a rebounding presence that the Warriors are going to need at times this season. So I'm just looking at the rebounding because Klingon in the first half, there's a stint in the end of the first quarter and maybe early second quarter where Klingon was monstering Quinton Post, just absolutely monstering him, making him look small, even though there's probably only a couple inches between them. Klingon, I think, how many O boards did Klingon have in this game? Was it 7? Yeah, 7 offensive rebounds in less than 20 minutes, 11 rebounds, 15 points, 11 rebounds for the game. I don't think it was a bad performance from Quinton Post by any means. Again, like he drops he had 9 3-point attempts, made 3. He dropped 16 points and was a team high plus 16 in, again, less than 20 minutes. So I'm not saying it was a terrible performance from Quinton Post, but sometimes he's just out there and the rebounding concerns and the defensive concerns are just too significant for my liking. They are just really significant. And Trace, again, he comes out, plays just under 17 minutes and has 10 rebounds, 4 offensive, 3 assists, 7 points. Good stat line from Trace Jackson-Davis. And he doesn't provide anywhere near the offensive spacing, obviously, for the Warriors. There are going to be certain lineups where Trace just simply cannot play, particularly if you've got Draymond and Jimmy out there and if GP2's out there. Too much spacing concerns, but that's kind of the issue for Steve Kerr is he's still going to have to pick and choose between the kind of stronger defense, stronger rebounding of Trace Jackson-Davis and the offensive spacing that Quinton Post provides you. And I still think he'll probably lean Post more so than TJD, but it's a lot closer, I think, now, nearly, just we're a week out from the season as to what I thought it was going to be even a week or 10 days ago. I think Trace's performance in the last couple of games have put him up a peg or two in the rotation. I actually don't mind some of the double big stuff that we're seeing. We saw Post and Horford. Did we see Horford and TJD? Well, we did actually, sorry, because it started the second half because Kuminga got ejected. So we saw that. I think we saw Post TJD in the fourth quarter as well. I don't mind some of that stuff, particularly when you're going up against these long, huge teams. Like, look at what the Trailblazers are throwing out there. You've got a 6'5" Drew Holiday. You've got Denny at 6'9". You've got Shaden Sharp, who's 6'6", 6'7", and immensely athletic. Jeremy Grant's a big body. Klingon, as we spoke about. Young Hansen coming off the bench. They were without Kamara, who's a big wing as well. So, like, teams like this, you're going to have to kind of have that push and pull of, all right, do we just beat them with offense? And I think that's what ultimately, the Warriors just outshot the Trailblazers at the end of the day. Portland were 9 of 43 from three-point range, 20.9% compared to the Warriors, 18 of 50, 36%. So it's not like the Warriors shot lights out. But Portland, and this was the big thing to me in that first half against them last week where they put up 73 points, where I spoke about it afterwards, like how much of this is actually legitimate, like wide open threes that they're knocking down? How much is there also a kind of just a variance and they were hot on that particular night, at least for the first half? And I think there was a balance there of both. And even in this game early on, Portland got some wide open threes, but they're not a good 3-point shooting team. I think that will bear out throughout the course of the regular season, and certainly did over the course of the 4 quarters in this game, again, shooting less than 21% from beyond the arc. So I don't know. It was an interesting game. Again, plenty to work through from this. Trace Jackson-Davis and Will Richard, I think, positives for the Warriors. Quinton Post is one of the more fascinating players to me, again, with the fact that he put up 16 points, was a team high plus 16, and yet I don't think he played overly well. I don't know. Like, let me know if I'm wrong on that, but it feels like Quinton Post wasn't great. Fendick says he had a couple of turnovers, but he was good. I think he mentioned that in regard to Richard. With GP2, they could bring him in at the end of quarters when we need to defend. Do you think Seth playing will mean Buddy gets benched? I'm not mad if that happens. The Seth Curry, what's going on with the Seth Curry thing? Like, can that guy get on the floor, please, and play? There hasn't been any talk of an injury or anything. Are they just ramping up his management and his practice time, I suppose? It's really disappointing because now you get to a point on Friday against the Clippers. What's the point of playing him? That should be your final tune-up, ready to go, like kind of Steve playing his main rotation if everyone's fully healthy and available, which is a little bit of a question mark on Jimmy and his ankle. But if he's back, if Draymond's back, we should see a full Warrior rotation as a full dress rehearsal through the first 2.5, 3 quarters at least. What's the point of playing Seth Curry in that game? Really? So this is disappointing because now he's going to get no opportunity really to integrate himself into the team. And he's going to come back in middle of November. And how does he go about earning minutes without it having to be forced through, the Warriors going through injury troubles or something like that? Melton's going to be back by that point as well, you'd imagine. So I don't really get it. I don't really get how Seth Curry is supposed to come in and make an impact for the Warriors, at least right away. And I think he's lost valuable time and opportunity to try and integrate himself into Steve Kerr's system, which he should be a great fit, obviously, but also just getting to play with his new teammates. That's a big thing. Getting to play with Steph for the first time, I suppose, going back to the preseason, 12 years ago when he was part of the Warrior training camp roster then. So disappointing in relation to Seth Curry. And I was really looking forward to watching him play first and foremost. The Buddy Hield thing is still interesting to me. Buddy was okay in this game, but not a standout. 4 turnovers. I was a little bit concerned when Buddy Hield said a couple of weeks ago that he was working on his dribbling during the offseason. And I was there like, I'm all for players trying to improve their weaknesses, but Buddy just should not be dribbling the ball. It's as simple as that. You don't have to work on that part of your game because I don't think there's any point I want you putting the ball on the floor, right? Particularly in half-court sets. In transition, when you're going to the rim, fine, whatever. But like when you're trying to create off the dribble and you're running, like I saw him trying to run pick and pops with Quentin Post and stuff like that. I'm like, buddy, come on, mate. Not you go. If you don't have an wide open 3, give the ball up to someone else. So it's always going to be an interesting thing to monitor for me with Buddy Hield being on what is essentially an expiring contract almost, making $9 million. Can that be used in a trade potentially mid-season if Seth Curry looks like he's going to be able to provide somewhere near the same amount of value and on-court production as Buddy Hield? And honestly, I'd be surprised if that happens. I think Buddy Hield is a much better player than Seth Curry at this respective point of their careers, but we also just haven't seen Seth in preseason. And I'm just waiting to see if he can come and give something to the Warriors or if he's just a cheerleader and Steph's brother at the end of the bench. It's a fascinating watch. But yeah, I'm disappointed with Seth Curry not being available so far in this preseason. Then Nick says, does Al Horford start if we are completely healthy? Well, Steve isn't committing to anything on here, which is a little bit of a concern because I think most of us just thought that Horford will be straight in to the starting lineup. But basically, Steve had a quote yesterday, I think it was, saying, well, or it might have been on Sunday after the Lakers loss, basically said, if Al is going to close games and we're going to try and manage his minutes as best as possible, then it's very difficult for him to also start games, close, and manage his minutes. So I don't know. I still think there's a way in which you can start him and he can close games. And you might not even want to close with him every single night. Obviously, it'll depend on the opposition, how he's playing, how other guys are playing. I still think there's a way to manage his minutes where he can start and be the traditional center that the Warriors need. Because otherwise, I don't think Quentin Post is up to being the starting center right now defensively and from a rebounding aspect. And I also don't think that, you've got like Trace. There's just too many spacing concerns when you've got Trace and Draymond and Jimmy on the floor together. I don't know. It's the starting lineup to me is really fascinating. The Moody injury is also another piece of this where, well, maybe Steve would go to his small ball lineup with Steph, Pods, Moody, Jimmy, and Dre, and that would be the starting lineup for opening night in the first portion of the season and let Horford be the sixth man. But even then, like Moody's absolutely no guarantee of being available on opening night. So who replaces him in that scenario? I don't think it's going to be Will Richard. Like, is it Kuminga? Then you've got Kuminga, Draymond, and Jimmy on the floor together, which we know Steve won't necessarily want to go to and doesn't like. So I don't know. It's all fascinating stuff. I think the most likely opening night combination will be Steph, Pods, Jimmy, Draymond, Horford. I think that's the likely scenario right now, because I think even if Moody's available, I'm not sure he comes straight back in to the starting lineup. I don't know. We will wait and see. But I think that would be kind of the odds-on favourite to be the starting lineup for opening night, with Horford at the centre position. What else have we got from this game? Kevin mentions Kuminga as he does, which is a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. I thought Kuminga's game was reasonable. Again, he just looks a completely different player to what he was or what he has been in the past. I watched that first quarter intently. He had 2 assists, and flat out, it should have been at least 4. Quentin Post and Brandon Bajemski both missed wide open threes that they should have cashed off Kuminga passes. Kuminga finishes with 4 assists in the first half. This is a guy that I think did Dalton Johnson tweet out. He's had like 4+ assists. He had 4+ assists 8 times last season in the entire campaign. He's already done it in 3 or 4 games so far, and mainly just playing in the first halves and mainly playing like max 20, 22 minutes. So it's fascinating. It's really interesting stuff. I brought up the stats on the pod with Stevie a couple of days ago after that Lakers loss. Like, he's averaging basically double the amount of assists per 36 minutes than what he has through his first 4 years. And he's averaging per 36, like half the field goal attempts. So even in this game, like, Kuminga took 5 field goal attempts in 18 minutes. Like, that's low for him. Low. Goes 3 of 5. Couple of nice takes to the rim. I think with Jimmy out, like, they were certainly featuring Kuminga as they were on Sunday, certainly featuring him heavily, trying to get switches where he was getting smaller defenders onto him, trying to back them down in the post and letting the defense kind of come to him and make the passes off there. So I don't know. I actually kind of like how he's playing. I do. It's different, and I think that's a good thing, because what we've seen through the first 4 years hasn't consistently worked and hasn't been what Steve Kerr's been after. I suppose the most positive thing from his perspective in this game as well, before he got ejected, was the rebounding. He had 6 rebounds. Some of the times, like, he's flying up for these boards, and you're just looking at it shaking. You think, why can't he do this consistently? He had 0 boards. So he had 11 through the first 2 games. Again, limited minutes, was really good. Led the Warriors. I think the next best was 9 through the first 2 games. Then he has donuts, 0 rebounds in the game against the Lakers on Sunday, and then comes out and has 6 boards in 18 minutes here. And again, like, you just wonder why you can't do it on a consistent basis. It's a little bit disappointing, but again, was a positive from this game. And the ejection thing, obviously disappointing. You shouldn't be going at refs necessarily like that, particularly in a preseason game. But it also helped if the refs just called the foul, like, just a clear, obvious foul. And, like, mate, I get frustrated when referees don't bloody call fouls in Tuesday Night Social League, right? Which I won't speak about after last night's game that we played. But I get frustrated then, let alone in an NBA game where if you're Jonathan Kuminga, yes, you've got this contract, but you're still trying to showcase yourself here. You're still trying to build yourself up into the potential star that you want to be moving forward here. And an easy opportunity for 2 points goes begging because the officials just won't call a very blatant, obvious foul. So yeah, I'm like, I understand the frustration. Should he have gone as far as he did and got ejected? No. I'd also like to. I still haven't seen footage of it because they just completely missed it, because there's a transition dunk or layup for the Trailblazers on the other end. So there's no actual footage of what happened. Apparently he put his hands on the ref. Anyway, very disappointing. Would have liked to see more of him in the second half, because I think he was actually putting a decent game together. It's just different. It's still taking I'm just going to need more data, more sample size to see whether or not this actually works. And some of the stuff, again, we see where the Warriors are actually kind of running offense through him. It's kind of looking okay at times, but then you point to it and say, well, when Jimmy's back, that's going to be Jimmy, not JK, and they're wherefore. I've just lost my words. Therefore, when is JK going to get his opportunity in the offense? That's going to be the big question mark for him once Draymond and Jimmy return, and the spacing concerns and stuff like that. So, again, just got to balance out some of the attacking the rim stuff with his passing and playmaking. Because again, 5 shot attempts in 18 minutes of game time isn't normal for Jonathan Kuminga. Fennec says, I think we pass too much instead of just scoring. Is that we as a team, or are you talking about the Warriors in general? A lot of threes put up in this game, 50 3-point attempts of Golden State's 87 field goal attempts as a team, which is what they're going to be. That's often what they have been. Now, Jimmy is going to change that up slightly, obviously, once he returns. And we saw that in the second half of last season, and giving the Warriors an extra element or a different element offensively. But they are going to shoot a lot of threes. And in fairness, at least this roster makes a little more sense in terms of jacking up threes, with bringing Horford in, bringing in Seth Curry, bringing back DeAnthony Melton. Much more of a 3-point spacing lineup and roster that the Warriors now have compared to years past where the spacing concerns have been significant. Kevin says, and then proceeds to get himself tossed like a clown. He's okay. I'm just going to move on from Kevin's comments. We know he's not a huge Kuminga fan. Then next says, do you think they will change the 3-point rule once they see all the free throw Steph will get? Well, that's a big thing. So Steph got fouled twice on 3-point attempts in the first quarter, finished 12 of 13 from the free throw line. Steph's going to put up big numbers if this is the way that refs are going to call it, where they have the high five thing now that they've brought in, where they're calling that for fouls. Steph had 28 points in 26 and a half minutes. He could easily average high 20s. Now, do the Warriors want him to? I don't know. I think if you ask Steve Kerr, he's probably going to want to try and lessen the offensive burden on Steph as much as possible. But we also know that he's just the engine that runs the entire show. So there is going to be a reliance there across the course of the season. And if he's finally going to start getting some foul calls, then he could easily have these kind of performances where he doesn't shoot immensely well. He's 6 of 15, 4 of 11, missed a couple of shots at the rim he might have otherwise made, but again, still gets to 28 points with getting 13 free throws, which to a Warrior team that outside Jimmy and Kuminga to an extent, they struggle to get to the free throw line. So it's good to see. Ronald says, JK did great. Green is proud of his ejection. I would have liked to see Draymond's reaction sitting over on the bench. Very Draymond kind of thing. Kevin says, once they start blitzing him in the regular season, it's going to be laughably bad. Well, again, that comes down to how much opportunity. Like, Steve's really made an emphasis over these last couple of games of, okay, we're going to run plays that gets smaller guys switched on to JK, and he's going to be able to post up, and action can kind of run out of that. That's not necessarily going to be the case, again, when Jimmy's back, particularly. So, again, like, I'm not sure how much offensive opportunity JK is going to get. I just like some of the stuff in transition as well, I think is like some of the reads he's making with, finding open shooters in the corner and stuff like that. Again, he's diamond up all these guys, and they're often missing shots. And again, like, his 2 assists in the first quarter. So he had 4 assists in the first half. It should have been 6 or 7 at least. He was on track for a triple-double in this game, which I don't think Jonathan Kuminga has ever recorded a triple-double in the NBA. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So, just another fascinating game from him. I don't think I've got too much else. I've got to head off here in the next 5-10 minutes or so. Kevin's still going on with the Kuminga stuff. I don't know, Kevin. feels like Jonathan Kuminga could have a 35-point triple-double in a Warrior victory, and you're still probably not going to give him flowers. So it is what it is at the end of the day. Some people are on one side of the equation. Some people are on the other. I'm trying to just analyze what I'm seeing, and what I'm seeing is a very different version of Jonathan Kuminga, and we need to see more of it moving forward. But it's certainly fascinating for the moment where he fits into a full-strength Warrior rotation. Can he be more than an 18 to 20-minute rotation player? I don't know. We'll wait and see. Obviously, there's going to be nights during the regular season where where the Warriors play without Jimmy, play without Draymond, play without Steph, and he's going to get real offensive opportunity. Again, whether that can lead to anything is the big question mark. And we saw, obviously, him get real big opportunity in the second round against the Timberwolves, and he put up big numbers, but it didn't translate to winning. So I don't know. We'll wait and see. But it's certainly fascinating at this point. Kevin says, do you think Westbrook will find a team? Uh, well, not at the moment. The Kings look like they're the only team that are interested now, man. Devin Carter, who the Warriors could have had in a Kuminga sign and trade, obviously in the offseason, it sounds like he's on the table, and the Kings potentially want to move him to bring in Westbrook, which is a decision within itself, but maybe that's the right one. I haven't really seen enough out of Devin Carter at this point to work out whether or not it's worth moving him on to get Russell Westbrook in. In a pinch, I'd say that's not a great decision because I'm not a big Russell Westbrook fan at this point of his career, but sounds like they are the only team for Russell Westbrook at this point. I think there's a lot of guys around the league who surprisingly, don't have teams. Westbrook is one. Like the fact that there's no market for Ben Simmons whatsoever. Feels like, didn't he turn down a minimum or something from the Knicks earlier in the offseason wanting more money? It's like, mate, you probably should have taken that one because now there's no team for you. So I don't know. I'd like to see some of these guys get another opportunity just because it'd be sad. Like, as much as I'm not a Russell Westbrook fan at this point of his career, it'd be sad if this is how he's going out with like no more real opportunity after a season in Denver where he made plenty of mistakes and some of the stuff he did is continually mind-boggling, but he was still a pretty prominent player for them. Like, he still played pretty significant minutes, and for him to be out of the league completely would be quite a shock and quite a disappointment after what's been a Hall of Fame career. So we'll wait and see. And even a guy like Ben Simmons, can he not get another opportunity elsewhere? We know the talent around the league right now is significant. Those guys might just have to wait for mid-season where teams like the Warriors did last season, where they make 3-for-1 or 4-for-1 trades. Golden State can't really do that at this point, given their position just under the second tax apron. But there are going to be teams around the league that make 2-for-1, 3-for-1, 4-for-1 trades, potentially open up roster spots, and therefore maybe the likes of Russell Westbrook, Ben Simmons can get an opportunity. Let's finish up with a couple other comments here. Kevin says Westbrook been a minus player for years. Look, I'm going to tend to agree with you on that one, Kevin. Then next says Kyle Lowry has a team, which is shocking. Yeah, I think Lowry knows who he is at this point of his career, and that's a guy that's probably not going to be in the rotation. He's a veteran leader, locker room presence in a way that Westbrook probably is. And I think that's the issue. That's why Russell Westbrook is out of the league right now, is because he hasn't been willing to accept his reality. He was willing to move to the bench, but he still wants to be a guy who's a major focal point of a team. And we saw that with the Nuggets last season. And oftentimes it can work. Didn't he have that massive triple-double against the Warriors and led the Nuggets to victory at Chase Center without Jokic and without Murray, I think? Like, he had a massive triple-double. So he's still capable, but no one wants to have their team run by Russell Westbrook on a nightly basis anymore. And then when he's also on the floor, you're constantly wondering and concerned about whether he's going to hijack your offense and do some stuff that just completely takes you out of your rhythm, and he's just blatant mistakes that ruins momentum or hands momentum to, like, remember what was the play against the Timberwolves last year where he took a layup in the final seconds when he didn't need to, with like 13 seconds on the shot clock, took a layup, missed it, and then fouled McDaniels on the other end and gave Minnesota the win. And that's just the kind of head-scratching plays that has typified Russell Westbrook, unfortunately, in the last couple of years. Decker says, Lakers defense looks terrible with Jimmy back. We beat them. Fingers crossed. Hope so. What was the score? So they lost to the Suns 113-104 at the same time the Warriors game was on. Luka was back in action. He went for 25 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, did have 5 turnovers in 22 minutes. So big points there from Luka, who is a sneaky MVP. Well, not even sneaky. He's just a massive MVP candidate for me. 8 and 10 and 13. I think Ayton's going to eat next to Luka Doncic. I actually think Ayton's going to be a handy pickup. There are concerns. Marcus Smart played, and Marcus Smart had 1 assist in 20 minutes and did not take. I'm going to have to go back and watch this game. How did Marcus Smart only record 1 assist in 20 minutes and didn't take a single field goal attempt? Like, what? Interesting. So I'm really interested to see the Lakers starting lineup. So it's going to be Luka and Ayton and Reeves. That's the 3. And then then Rui's probably going to be a 4th, I'm assuming. And then the 5th is going to come down to Vando, Smart, Laravia. I'd imagine one of those 3. I wouldn't be starting Vando if I was the Lakers. Not when you've got Ayton next to him who's not shooting the 3 ball either, because Vando, we saw he was working on his stuff in his 3-point shooting and stuff like that during the offseason. It came back and you thought this is going to be a new element to his game. And then that game on Sunday where the Warriors and Draymond and stuff like that were just leaving him wide open and saying good luck. And I'm not sure he knocked down one. I think he might have missed like 5 or 6. So it wasn't pretty. Kevin says Lakers will be better without LeBron. Kevin says Vando has looked great this preseason. Has he shot any good in any of the other Laker games? He didn't play in this game, but man, like that, yeah, he's a great hustle player. He's a great rebounder. We know, great connective piece. The kind of guy that we would have seen on the Warriors in the past few years, where kind of does all this defensive and hustle stuff, but also just cannot hit an open three. I'm just having a look at what did he shoot the other day? He shot Jared Vanderbilt with 0 of 4 from deep. 6 points, 3 of 9 shooting. Don't know. There's a chance he gets the start, but the spacing concerns worry me in a way that the Warriors have obviously had in previous years if Vanderbilt and Ayton are both starting for the Lakers, but we'll wait and see. And then defensive concerns for the Lakers with their backcourt of Luka and Reeves, albeit you could probably say the same if Steph and Pod's are starting backcourt for Golden State. So it's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, plenty to talk about before then. Obviously, another preseason game to come against on Friday against the Clippers back at Chase Center, which looking forward to. Hopefully, we see a full dress rehearsal and the Warriors kind of play their main guys and play what their main rotation will look like entering the season, minus Moses Moody, obviously, who's still got that calf issue. Hopefully Jimmy's back. We think Draymond's going to be back after just resting this game. Looking forward to seeing more of them around Al Horford as well, who got better, I thought, as the game went on in this one. Anyway, I'm going to finish it up there, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Just a quick one to recap this 118-111 victory for the Warriors over the Trailblazers. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that'd be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POK252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter, and check out the Patreon Golden State with Mates if you haven't already as well, giving away a Steph Curry jersey in 6 days' time now, 24 hours out from the Warriors' regular season opener against the Lakers. Looking forward to that one. And thanks again, guys. We might do another one of these after Friday's game against the Clippers. We'll wait and see. Much appreciated.